Everyone probably knows the common pathway to get Australian PR as an international student. From student visa 500, then graduate visa 485, then employer sponsor visa 482, and then permanent residency. And for many people, this journey can take many years, maybe 10 years or so. But have you ever thought whether you can shorten that journey? In today's video, I'm gonna show you how I saved 2 years or more on my Australian PR journey by skipping one visa. Hi everyone, I am Kylie Fan and welcome back to my channel. If you are new here, I am an international student on the way to permanent residency, and on this channel, I document my real journey from being an international student to sponsorship and building my life in Australia. I create content around migration, career growth, mindset, and investing. If this video brings you some value, don't forget to like and subscribe to my channel. My hope is that by sharing what I learned along the way, I can make your pathway a little easier than mine. And alright, let's jump up into today's video. First, let's understand the pathway. Before I explained how I shortened my journey, you need to understand what these visas actually do. If you already know all this, no worries. You can use the timestamps below to skip straight to the main part, where I'll show you exactly what I did to shorten 2 years on my PR journey. Okay, the first visa we mentioned today is Student Visa 500. The student visa allows international students to come to Australia and study an eligible course. Depending on your course and your enrollment, you can stay in Australia for the duration of your course. And the student visa can be granted up to 6 years. You can also work while studying, generally up to 48 hours per fortnight. When your course is not in session, student visa holders can work unlimited hours. And this is where my strategy starts. I will explain it later. The next visa is Temporary Graduate Visa 485. The 485 visa is a temporary visa for eligible international students who have completed Australian qualifications. Depending on your stream and your qualification, you are allowed to stay in Australia and work for 2 or 3 years after graduate. For a lot of international students, the 485 visa is actually a bridge. This visa allows them to gain work experience and find an employer who is willing to sponsor them. The next visa is the Skills in Demand Visa 482. This is an employer-sponsored temporary visa. Basically, an approved Australian employer sponsors you to work in a skilled occupation that they need. This visa allows you to stay and work in Australia up to 4 years, depending on your stream and your circumstances. For the core skills stream, one of the important requirements is having at least 1 year of relevant experience in your nominate occupation or in your related field. And this experience can be full-time, part-time, or casual. If you work part-time or casually, it needs to be equivalent to at least 1 year of full-time experience. And the last one is PR, subclass 186. One common pathway for the 482 is the Employer Nomination Scheme Visa, subclass 186, Temporary Residence Transition Stream. This is the permanent visa. Under the current rules, you need to have worked in the sponsor employment for at least 2 years full-time while holding a 482 visa, and your employer needs to nominate you. So now you can see the basic pathway. For many students, it looks something like this. You study and then you graduate, apply for 485 visa, find a relevant work and gain experience, then find sponsor, and then you apply visa 482, and then you work under the sponsorship, and then you are qualified for permanent residency. But there is another way. I shortened my PR journey by around 2 years. So how can I shorten this journey? The main idea is simple. Don't wait until you graduate to start gaining work experience. If your course, your occupation, and your visa conditions allow it, you can start building relevant work experience while you are still on Student Visa 500. This is exactly what I did. In my case, I basically skipped the Visa 485 graduate visa. My pathway is student visa 500 and then jump to 482, work sponsor visa. So how did I do that? The first thing I did differently to other international students is I planned my study and I worked around that occupation that I wanted to be sponsored for. For me, the occupation is pastry cook. I studied in the same field, which is patisserie, and while I was studying, I also worked as a pastry cook. Instead of thinking, I'll graduate first and then I will worry about my career, I thought, I am already in Australia. I'm already studying this occupation. Why not start gaining relevant experience now? So I started working consistently under that occupation while I was studying. I worked around 24 hours per week, which is within 48 hours per fortnight when my course was in session and during course breaks. When the student visa work restriction doesn't apply, I could work more hours, subject to my visa conditions. The important thing here is I wasn't working any random job. I was trying to gain work experience in the same occupation I wanted to use for my future sponsorship. But here's the important part. You might be thinking, hey Kylie, if I only work casually, does that count? Potentially yes. For the 482 visa, relevant work experience can be gained part-time, full-time, or even casually, but the experience need to be equivalent to 1 year full-time. So, for example, if you consistently work for 24 hours per week, you are building experience over time. But don't assume that that automatically meets the visa requirement. Your actual occupation, duties, hours, dates, employment arrangement, and evidence all matter. That's why I kept my employment record very carefully. The next thing is you have to keep your evidence. This is something I want you to take very seriously. I kept my payslips. I also kept my employment documents and records showing what I was doing and how much I was working. Because when you eventually apply for a sponsor visa, you need to be able to demonstrate your work experience. So don't wait until when you are ready to launch your visa and then start looking for evidence from 2 years ago. You have to keep everything from the beginning. Your payslips, your employment contract, records of employment, and other relevant evidence can become very important later. And make sure everything is genuine and consistent. Don't try to create experience just for visa condition. The next thing you have to keep in mind is, what if your job title isn't exactly the same? The good news is, for 482 visa, the rules don't simply look at whether your job title is identical. Relevant experience can be in the nominated occupation or a related field, provided the work involves the relevant task and skills level. So you shouldn't only look at your job title. You need to look at the actual duties that you perform and whether they are relevant to the nominated occupation. If you are unsure, get professional advice before relying on that experience for your visa. And the last thing I did differently is, while I was working, I was also looking for a sponsor. I didn't wait until I had completed all the experience before thinking about sponsorship. While I was working, I was also looking for an employer who could potentially sponsor me. Because finding an employer who is willing to sponsor you is one thing. Finding an employer who is able and eligible to sponsor you is another thing. The employer needs to meet the relevant sponsorship and nomination requirements. And the position also needs to meet the requirement for the visa. So you might have a business owner saying, hey, I want to sponsor you to work for my firm. But that doesn't automatically mean that your 482 visa application can go ahead. As I explained in the previous video about 482 visa, there are basically two sides being assessed, you and your employer. I will put that video in the description below if you want to understand the 482 requirements in detail. So in conclusion, what did I actually save? This is the part that I really want you to think about. A lot of students finish their studies and then use the 485 visa to start building work experience that they need for the sponsorship. But if you can gain the required relevant experience while you're already on your student visa, You may not need to spend another period on 485 visa just to gain that experience. That's potentially where you can save around 2 years or more. Instead of using 485 visa just to work and gain experience and then jump to 482, you may be able to gain that kind of experience when you are on student visa so that you can jump straight to 482 after you graduate and then continues toward permanent residency. Of course, this doesn't mean that everyone can skip visa 485. Your occupation, your qualification, your work experience, visa condition, employer, and individual circumstances all matter. This is my strategy and my experience. I'm sharing it because I want you to understand that you don't have to follow the exact same pathway as everybody else. My biggest advice to international students: if you know that you want to stay in Australia long term, you have to plan it early. Don't wait until you graduate and ask, what am I going to do now? You should be asking yourself while studying, what occupation do you want? What qualification do you need? What experience do you need to gain? And what is your plan after graduation? Because when you have a plan, you can make better decisions about your time, your money, and your career. I always say this in my video. Know what you want when you move to Australia. One more thing. If you are interested in receiving my PDF checklist and resources, I will put the link to my website below. You can go there and leave your email there and I will send it through to you. I'm here to share what I'm learning along the way and make your journey a little easier than mine. So if you find this video helpful, don't forget to like and subscribe to my channel. I'm going to post content around migration, mindset, career growth like this every week. And I will see you in the next video. Thanks for watching.